So let's just run through some of the advantages I may not have touched on here. So avoids probate, we talked about that. It can give income to the grantor if all they have is a small Social Security benefit, but a large chunk of money that they don't want all to be exposed to their care costs, but they do need to live off the income. The trust can pay income out to the grantor. They just can't give the grantor access to the trust principal. So you can still get the interest and dividends you might have been used to live on for your life. Sometimes people might say, well, why should I set up a trust? I'll just give the money to my kids to hold on to. Big issue here is any of your kids' creditors, whether it be a divorce, lawsuit, car accident, bankruptcy, that money of yours that you're giving to one of your kids to hold on to could become subject to their own creditors. A trust, it's not available to your kids until your death, so their creditors is not a threat to the money. Children also can't necessarily have access to this money, so they can't spend it. The way we set up our trust is you can change the beneficiary, so you're not locked in. So you may set the trust up in 2022 and say, I want it to go to my 4 children. Then in 2026, you may say, you know, one of my kids or one of my kids' spouses has a serious gambling problem or a drug problem, or they're horrible with finances. You can change who in the trust, if they're set up a certain way, you can change the beneficiaries without undoing anything else in the trust. It's called a limited power of appointment. You can also change trustees. Certain trusts, if they're set up as a grantor trust, which is the way we set them up, you can transfer assets into a trust but not have it be a taxable event. House, for example, you could transfer your house into a trust. Trust could sell the house, but you'd still get your capital gains exemption for having lived there. At death, your children will get a stepped up basis, meaning they're not going to pay significant capital gains taxes if they sell property inherited from a trust versus having it given to them outright. Protect your house. You can protect all assets after 5 years. And really anything you want can go into a trust. I'm a little leery about people putting cars into a trust because of liability that could go along with an automobile accident, but really anything can go in. The disadvantages is there's more paperwork involved than just giving something to one of your kids. There's legal fees involved with the trust. It's certainly worth it, in my opinion, to 1, avoid probate, and 2, avoid significant nursing home costs. When you put a home into a trust, you may have to change how the insurance is structured. One big issue with the home, for a grantor putting a house into a trust to protect the equity in that house, really nothing changes. You still are able to live there, your taxes are still paid in your name, you still get the star exemptions. But if you have a home equity line of credit that you use, you cannot pull equity out of that house anymore. If you could, that would expose the equity to the nursing or nursing home costs. Some people use what's called a revocable trust. This is really for someone who has such significant wealth such that they're not concerned with how they're going to get money to pay for nursing home costs. Or they might have income so high that they wouldn't qualify for Medicaid. Or maybe they have long-term care insurance that is sufficient to cover nursing home costs indefinitely. So the real function of a revocable trust is to avoid probate. It doesn't offer any nursing home or long-term care protection. But it does allow you to set out detailed instructions with any contingency you could imagine as to who gets what. So a lot of clients will say, all right, everything is going to go equally to my children. If one child predeceases me and I want his share to go to his children, except if they're under 25 years old, then I want a held in further trust with my other child to control the money for that grandchild. You can't do that on a life insurance beneficiary designation form or a transfer on death designation form. That still avoids probate like a revocable trust does, but you can really put a lot more detail and kind of control from the grave. If you want to set certain beneficiary designation up creatively in a revocable trust. So it offers probate avoidance and detailed control over who gets what on the death of beneficiaries or whatever contingency you want to add, but no long-term care protection.